Hello, welcome to another episode of Executive Suite. I'm your host, Thomas Braun, and today we're here with Kat Halushka from Profitable Impact Academy, which is here to do some media training for startup CEOs and entrepreneurs, which is very important because social media is absolutely key to your success these days, and you want to look the best you can. Kat, can you please give us the elevator speech about your company, and then we'll get into what kind of training you do.
Yeah, for sure. And Profitable Impact Academy really started as a business coaching academy, but we quickly realized that when it comes to business in general, the number one most undervalued skill out there is communication. It's using your voice. And so we went down the rabbit hole of how do we use our voice and communication skills in order to get clients, get them converted, and not drag it out into 50 meetings, follow-ups, 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 follow-ups. It really drags on, especially if you are selling any kind of services or information coaching, consulting, right? So we essentially teach entrepreneurs just that is we teach them how to use their voice to be seen, heard, and paid.
Okay, that's great. Now, can you give me an example of the kind how a coaching session would work? Are you doing mock interviews? Do you give people a speech to read and videotape them? Can you lead me through how this would work for a customer of yours?
Sure. And when it comes to really using public speaking as a marketing tool, the number one thing to understand is it's all about very strategic approach to how you do it. So the one thing that we work with our clients on and they generate 6, 7, 8 figures in their business using is profitable signature talk system. So it's putting together a very strategic talk that has very specific structure. And by the way, if you find me on Instagram and DM me the word PST, Profitable Signature Talk, I'm going to send you exactly what that is. And so when you are developing your talk, is having very specific structure behind it that allows for people to really get to know what is it that you can help them with, and having specific call to action at the end done in the way that converts them into being your clients. We have done this with hundreds of entrepreneurs now. And this is the only system where I've seen where it's repeatable. You can do it over and over again using the same talk, and it actually works. But here's the kicker. What's even better is you can turn it into something that works while you're on vacation, sleeping, hanging out with your family, or working out or doing something that you love by simply recording that presentation and making it accessible 24/7. That's probably one of my favorite part about developing that is allowing for business owners to step into more of the lifestyle that they want and less of having to do that hustle and sales and marketing, right? Instead, they can just do more of what they love.
Sure. So are you so you said you can record it and post it somewhere, like a corporate video. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so generally it is called either a webinar, a masterclass, or a video sales letter. So it's really strategically structured video that allows for people to quickly develop trust and relationship with the person on the other side. So if it is a CEO of a big organization, it would be something that essentially your potential clients would see before even booking and scheduling a conversation to discover the services that you have. It just shortens the amount of time it takes from curious to sale.
Mm. And where should these videos live? Like, do you recommend that people post them on YouTube or Vimeo, or should they just have it on their own website? Does that matter?
Yeah, generally, it's not something publicly accessible and people can accidentally find because, again, it's all a part of the strategy. We want it to be hosted somewhere where you have control over who you send there. Is, of course, it's just as important who has the visibility of it as it is on how you do it. And so when it comes to it, usually you would have it on your website. Depending on the category of your business, you might even have people opt in and give you their name and email address before they see it. So in coaching consulting, it's very common practice to ask people to exchange some information in exchange to seeing some kind of training or information about your business case studies, right? In a bigger organization than manufacturing, construction, you probably wouldn't. You generally would just send it as almost pre-qualifier to find out if the people who are curious about your service is a good fit before you start spending time developing that relationship.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So you'd make it like a unlisted video on
100%.
Vimeo or YouTube, and you can just send somebody the link. Have people tried this in conjunction with cold email, like go to market type strategies, where you would send someone, I guess, a shareable link to a video and invite them to come and see it?
Yes, and I've done it many times. You can use this strategy in so many different contexts and containers, including lunch and learns. I don't know if you've ever done them or attended one, but it's essentially just that you inviting people to have exposure to what are some of the services that you have to offer, and in exchange, you feed them. So it's very similar. So there just still needs to be some value exchange provided because generally people don't spend that much time watching something that just sells them, right? So there needs to be an educational component or, again, some kind of value. Sometimes it's discounts, coupons. Sometimes you're going into special offers, right? Sometimes it's part of its education or maybe it's some kind of templates or resources that you're providing along with the exploration of the services. So the value balance is definitely very, very important when you deliver that.
Okay. So you mentioned a few different formats. Now, one of them is just say like a monologue, where you have your entrepreneur or CEO talking directly to the camera. Another way would be to do something like a webinar or some other format. How do you decide what works best to introduce your company or your product?
Right, and I mean, the easiest way is definitely you're gonna hire someone who's gonna tell you. There is, different categories of businesses that generally have different ways of doing it, and one of the ways to pay attention to is how do your clients consume the information on their side? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if your target is C-level executives, I really doubt that they consume information about their business, their work, their profession over TikTok, right? So you're probably not going to do that. They're also chances are not necessarily searching for a service on YouTube, right? So you really need to pay attention and meet your clients where they're at and where they're consuming or searching that information. And it could be things like a very targeted search on Google, right? Facebook is still a great way. A LinkedIn for those C-level executives is the bomb right now. Like that's something that's working really, really well. And format will really depend on that too, right? We do this thing with our clients where we actually provide them a very specific process on how to do the research in order to find that out. So there's a set of questions that you can ask and do customer research to identify how they consume information. Unless you already know, then you don't need to.
Okay, so on LinkedIn, you can post a video, of course, and you can post videos to groups. There are CEO groups, and but what are you talking about when you're talking about LinkedIn working really well? Are you saying send somebody a direct message with a link to a video and
You
invite them to
could,
watch it?
but that said, I wanna emphasize that there needs to be structure behind how you do it. If you
Hmm.
just start DMing people with a link to a video, the conversion rate is going to be very, very low, in fact, fractional in 0.00, right? Like,
Hmm.
it's just going to be
Okay.
more effort and time that you spend on that versus what you get in return. So, again, you have to meet your prospects where they're at. So first, it would be a conversation starter to even find out if they're interested in what it is that you have to offer. And then you would send them a link to the video. So this is where all those steps are going to warm up your prospect into even committing to watching something. Because, and Thomas, we talked about it a little bit earlier. People take like 10 seconds to decide if they want to watch something, sometimes even less, right? So it needs to be strategically planted in order for people to commit to watching 5, 10, 60-minute video. So we want to make sure that we get that that permission and commitment first, and only then give them the link.
I see. So there's a bit of psychology behind this.
Absolutely.
Um, and would that be, you think, so you send a warm up and then you send the link. Um, Interesting. And then I guess you would send follow ups to
Yeah,
try and
and
nudge them.
in reality, it's no different than, you can take it in real life experience, and when you go networking, right? You come up to people and you have, uh, what we call a small talk, right? Like, what is it that you do? Who do you work with? You could get to know each other, and then maybe if it's a good fit, you're gonna schedule a coffee date or a meeting of some sort to go a little bit deeper, right? A few layers deeper, and then perhaps you explore each other's services and what that looks like to work together. And, very much like in real life, you wouldn't just come up to someone at a networking event and just say, "Hey, buy my stuff. Here's the video." Right?
Yeah.
It's too much of a jump in the commitment. There needs to be a little bit of, "Hey, like,
Too
is this
pushy.
even a good fit, and should we even invest time into having more conversations?" Right?
Interesting. Okay.
It's the same.
So you've got, what do for social media, which seems to be the key to success these days for so many different businesses. And you've got LinkedIn, of course. There's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Now, with LinkedIn, generally, I think short videos, like under 2 minutes, under 1 minute, probably are best. And Instagram's got short videos. Is Facebook anything at all these days? Does anybody
Yes.
Should people still bother with Facebook? Is it still something to be bothered with? Because they have Instagram. I thought everybody who was on Facebook moved over to Instagram.
So again, the container is different, where on Instagram it's either visual or shorts that work really well. On Facebook, doing lives work really well. It still attracts a lot of quite big audience, especially if you know exactly some of those engagement triggers that you can use on the lives. Then you have a huge potential. We have clients having anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people on lives, and they're buying right there and then. And then LinkedIn is, I almost say, like, LinkedIn is like, Facebook used to be. And people started using it that way. The visibility is still there. It reaches the right audiences. A lot more people see and interact with the posts now. So that what literally Facebook used to be, but now a lot of things have shifted. So people start using LinkedIn very much like they used to use Facebook by doing everything from photos to posts to educational to entertainment content. So it's not as a professional environment as it used to be anymore. And it's used more as a personal connection platform in the professional container, right? Like, I always see as social media as an opportunity of hone in, niche down, and stay in your lane. There's no reason for people to use everything. You
Oh,
just choose
okay.
one platform where you know your audience hangs
Mhm.
out and you want to grow and you enjoy creating content in the most because they're all a little bit different, right? I really like Instagram. I like posting the videos, the photos, the videos with text over, clips out of my interviews. I really enjoys those pieces, and it's easy for me to use the platform. Where my business partner is more on LinkedIn, and they really enjoy doing more of a long copy educational content. So you can clearly see that there needs to be a combination of alignment even on the personal level. So there's business, who's my audience and do they actually hang out there? And there's personal, hey, I actually don't mind using the platform so I can create content and feel comfortable with it. Because for most people, creating content doesn't come natural, nor they have the desire to do it, right? So you kind of need to find a little bit of a balance of those two meeting in the middle. And
Mhm.
just hone in on that one platform and you can just use tools like repurpose.io and repurpose it to everywhere else. It's just gonna copy paste it to all the other places. Makes it so much easier than having to create content for 5, 6, 7. I don't even know. There's so many different social media platforms. So just pick one.
Yeah. There's like WhatsApp is
Mhm.
trying to become kind of like a new Instagram or TikTok. There's X, and I should probably get back onto X, but I went on it for a while, and even it just seemed that regardless of what I put in as my interests or the things I wanted to see, it always drifted back to like the political doom scrolling version of X, and away from the industrial and business version of X. So anyway, and the other thing is that these things can become kind of addictive, where you are
Mhm.
just wasting a lot of time.
Yes.
So now TikTok, um, a lot of people they just think, well, yeah, TikTok's for kids or whatever. But I had an interview recently with a venture capitalist. We were discussing how they use AI and how they source deals for themselves. How do you find the next big thing? And he said they use TikTok, that they're concentrating TikTok. And I said, oh, really? He said, yeah, yeah. There's like a lot of startup companies and entrepreneurs on TikTok, and they look at your level of engagement,
Mhm.
and then they figure, well, if you can do that, like if you can get a whole bunch of followers on TikTok, then you can probably run a company and get people to follow you there, to buy your product or whatever it is. So, what do you think of that? Like, have you seen any change in the landscape? Do you have many clients who are starting to exploit TikTok, or do you think it's still something that is more for I guess the under 20 generation?
No, definitely not. The generations that are on TikTok and leverage it the most are actually over 35, where it has the perception that it's all kids, but those biggest accounts, they're people in between 35 and 45-year-olds. And really, when you look at the growth of TikTok and how fast it's growing, the having an audience now is currency. All of those creators who grew over the last, year, 2 years, 5 years, and have millions of followers, how they leverage is they literally sell the views, right? And so when you say venture capitalists, that's what they use to find their next deals. It's true. If you have an ability and a skill set to grow your audience, create an audience out of literally thin air, just content, you have an ability to really scale a company, because audience does translate into clients with the right tools and the right components, right? The right offer. So I definitely see how this would be such a great market for investors to just see who there is being creative, showing up consistently. Think about it. The skill sets of content and growing your social media are the same as of entrepreneurship and business ownership. Consistency, resiliency, dedication, goals, leveraging what you have, right? So your audience, creating offers, it's all the same skill sets with just a little bit of experience, which venture capitalists, investors sometimes are offering and bringing to the table. They can turn it into millions of dollars, if not more. And so it's a no-brainer to create the connection between creators who are already doing it and someone who can turn it into a leverage business.
Hmm.
I absolutely love that.
And what about the length of the videos? Are they about a minute long or 2 minutes? How long is the ideal TikTok or Instagram video?
The truth is it changes all the time because the all of those platforms are testing out different algos, right? So TikTok last year was testing videos over 10 minutes and see if they push it out, if people actually watch it. I see it kind of die down. People got quiet about it, so I'm assuming that changed, right? Because those platforms are testing, but they're not that transparent about it always. So, you can create a 10-minute video and all of a sudden you're seeing that that's the thing that's working and the platform is pushing it out to more audiences, and then a month later it's not. So you really have to pay attention to, what the platform is doing with the combination of what your audience is responding to. But in reality, it's all storytelling. You really are taking something that people on the other side of the screen are experiencing it and telling the story about it using different offers, different components, your own life experiences, somebody else's, or comedy, right? Entertainment. And but in general, that what sells. The storytelling is what's selling people into the following, the interacting, and the buying. And so I absolutely love using the skill sets that I have learned through doing public speaking, traveling throughout the whole world, and I now have spoken in over 500 stages internationally, and using those skills and implementing them into social media because I find that a lot of them translate into it. What you say on stage and how you tell your story matters, and it matters even more when you're doing it on the digital device. And so when it comes to doing social media in general, that is something to keep in mind. You're not just creating content for the sake of content. You're creating content to support someone on the other side was the challenge that they're. And so if it takes a minute, great. If it takes 10 minutes, great. The art of storytelling is what's going to make people stay, no matter if the video is 30 seconds or 10 minutes. Because let's be honest, Thomas, I'm sure there have been YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok videos you watched even though they're longer because it's engaging, interesting, or it's teaching you something, or all three.
Yeah. Depends what I'm doing too, right? Long podcasts lend themselves to long car drives. If you know, I don't commute, but if I have to go on a long drive for like an hour or something, and how else would you have the time to listen to some of these things? You look at Joe Rogan, which is the number one podcast in the world, and they're 3 hours long. So there's a whole industry of people out there who chop up Joe Rogan podcasts and republish them as highlights or whatever. So really, it's a long time, but sometimes those long podcasts can be useful to listen
Mhm.
to and interesting, especially if they're interviewing somebody who has written a book on a topic and you don't have time to read the book. You can watch an interview, and you get the abridged version, the highlights of it or whatever, right? So now, but with these short videos on TikTok and telling a story, if we get back to that for a second, and you were talking about the structure, uh, did you call it PST? Um,
Profitable signature talk system. Yeah.
right. Okay. Proverbs talks PSTS. Okay. I thought with TikTok, you have these short videos, and perhaps all together, if you string them together like a string of pearls, that makes a story. Okay. But each one might only be 30 seconds or a minute long. um, how do you fit the structure in then if you just have sort of like a series of 1 minute videos where the first one, I guess you say something about introducing your company, and then you go on and you hope that people will follow you to get the next chapter. Do you have any insight to that?
Yeah, and the importance here is to understand that there's going to be different pillars of content that you create. One of those will be educational, which absolutely makes it feel like it's very difficult to fit something in the 1 minute time. And it is very possible as long as you understand that it needs to be very specific. So, as an example, if we talk about public speaking, I wouldn't be making a 1 minute video about public speaking, but maybe I can make a video on how to stop yourself from saying, um, and filler words as you're doing
Mhm,
public speaking in 1 minute, which is
mhm.
very relevant, but it's a small part of what it is I teach. So, something educational, and it can be taught in a very small amount of time as long as it's specific. And generally, that's the content that a lot of people save, share, right? Or rewatch over and over again because they want to keep it in their pocket as a little resource, right? Next time they're doing public speaking. Now, There's entertainment content, which is generally something like a skit, comedy clip from something that's funny, and it always has, like a structure of any joke. It's got the story, the character, the conflict, and the punchline. But when it comes to storytelling of your whole business and some of the services that you offer, the importance of understanding is it's almost like filmmaking. Netflix is making billions of dollars and they do it for a reason. They have uncovered the formula and the art of leaving people hanging at the end of the episode. I don't know if you noticed, but Netflix pumps out way more series than they do movies. And that's for a reason. The watch time increases, and they know exactly what is it that needs to happen at the end in order for people to be on the edge of that seat, wanting to watch the next episode and the next episode, and then you're binging the whole series in one night.
Hmm.
So that's the important part when you're stringing videos together, when it's a longer story, is you need to make sure that as you're transitioning people from one video to another, there's that little to be continued, as we call it, a hook, right? Letting them know on why they should go and check out the next video.
Hmm. Okay. So now, I guess there's one last thing I was wondering about is how do you teach these courses? Are you doing it remotely, or do people come to your office? How does that work?
Yes, that's a great question. So we do have an in-person events that we do in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, that are 2-day workshops. We also do virtual workshops. I mean, in the age of Zoom and internet, everything is possible. So a lot of the coaching, workshops, training happens virtually, where you would just jump on Zoom, and you have access to some of the coaching, but also we do have pre-recorded resources. Some of the training can just be done while you're driving or working out, or maybe you're in front of your computer and you specifically want to spend time on it. A lot of skills can be trained like that, right? So we have those resources as well.
Really? Like, what kind of skills can you do while you're driving?
A lot of the times it's going to be verbal practices. So storytelling, you can learn exactly the structure of the storytelling and then work through the pieces on your own. And then we do provide AI resources on how you can actually practice it and talk it back and forth with it.
Okay. And do you tell people to do like voice exercises? Like sometimes
Yes.
acting coaches, they'll say, before you go out, you have to make all these strange faces and noises.
It's the funniest videos to watch when it comes
Mhm.
to training. Obviously, you can't do it while you're driving because you do need to watch them. It's hard to describe what to do with the face. And it's by far was the funnest to record, and when we do it in person and some of our trainings events that do happen in person or on camera, honestly, it's entertaining. It's because you do make all kinds of faces and sounds,
Mhm.
and truly it works. There's
Really?
hundreds of muscles in your face. The fact that most of the speakers, as they're starting their speaking career or using speaking in general, communicating meetings, right? Board meetings, boardrooms, any kind of presentations, the fact that people don't warm up their face is wild because that's why most of the time they're quiet or they mumble or you can't pronounce things and they don't come out. And also, that's why people get so nervous that they stop breathing, right? And they can't actually communicate a thought because their brain is just deprived of oxygen. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that. So it's not just the funny
Mm.
sound exercises, it's also as simple as breathing exercises to make sure that your body is calm, full of oxygen, and you can focus, concentrate, and deliver. Because confidence is not always just knowing everything and memorizing everything. Sometimes it's as simple as putting your nervous system in the rest state so that you can focus all of your energy in communicating what you're trying to.
Yeah. And I tried to tell my kids about these things before they go for an audition or whatever, and I think they think I'm joking or something. Um, so now, what about the voice? Do you do you just let people, you know? I mean, of course, if somebody's mumbling, you can say talk louder, okay? But uh, you know how like Justin Trudeau has a very breathy voice. Please, please vote for me. So does that work? Do you work on people's voices?
Yes, and there's important components to understand about that. Primarily, when we are working with clients and we are showing them how to use public speaking as a marketing tool. And there's a big misconception on that you need this perfection when it comes to volume and fluctuations and expressions and how animated you are and all of those things. But reality is I'm an immigrant. English is my second language. The first time I was on stage selling something, I still had a very thick accent. I didn't know my presentation. I've seen my slides once. I was just thrown on stage and asked to do it. And I still made sales. That's the important part to understand is yes, there's always improvements that you can make when it comes to the skill set of public speaking. And it doesn't necessarily affect your sales as long as you have the right systems in place.
Right. And there's also a little bit of psychology behind it as well, because you have to, if you're trying to convey some kind of passion for your project, I think you have to have that mindset, and then it comes out through your voice. So I'm not sure if that's called method acting, um, but it really does work, especially if you're trying to raise money, trying to convince people that they really need to invest in this company because it's got the greatest thing since sliced bread. And a lot of people, they're going to be persuaded if you yourself are passionate about it. So you really have to come across as enthusiastic, and then that enthusiasm can be contagious. How do you teach people to do that?
Big part of what we teach is we don't teach people to memorize their talks.
Huh?
When you have the framework and you have the skill set, and that's what we train them on, you come through way more authentically so that you can actually deliver it from the place of heart and passion and not from the place of, I know I need to say this specific thing. So it allows for them to fall into the comfort of what they know and who they are versus having to memorize word for word what they need to say. So that's all a part of the profitable signature talk system is really understanding in the framework versus memorizing it, right? And a lot of it is just us working with our clients to bring out some of their passion and some of their story of why they're doing it in the first place. There's two types of people when it comes to, jobs and careers. There's people who do it because they're good at it and they're not passionate about it. But it works, it's a job, we need to make money, and they just do it. And the other type is people who are leaders, who are passionate about what they do, they're innovators in their industry. They are attached to the outcome ultimately. And those people are the people that just need the right container and training in order to bring it out in them in the high pressure environment of public speaking. So this is what we do is we help them bring out some of those stories and we give them the skill set of how to deliver them so they don't have to memorize it and it still comes through authentically. So it's not the same every single time, but it comes from them knowing who they are versus knowing what to say.
Okay. Well, do you have any closing thoughts, insights, pearls of wisdom that you can share with us as we wrap this up?
Like I said, the communication is one of the most underdeveloped and undervalued skills in the world. It doesn't matter if you are in the boardroom or in front of 1,000 people. How you communicate what you do is going to make the biggest difference and create the most impact for the people who are on the other side. Uh, Go follow me on Instagram at Kat Holushka. And if you want to develop your profitable signature talk, just shoot me a word PST and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, Profitable Impact Academy. So Anyway, I mean, I can also add that even if you've taken this sort of training in the past, it's a sort of thing where you need refreshers because it's so easy to fall back into bad habits, forget about what you were taught before. It's not like other things where you learn it once and then you know it for the rest of your life, really. And I can attest to that because I'm constantly saying and ah, and there I did it again, okay? So, bad habits, and they can be stamped out with your help. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and if you like this sort of content, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you.